Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a topic that, well, it touches everyone, often without us even realizing it. We're talking about overcoming those unseen barriers, those fears that quietly but really powerfully hinder our effectiveness and our impact.
Yeah, they really do.
So our mission for this deep dive is essentially to equip you. We've gathered insights from biblical narratives, supporting articles, really trying to understand why we hesitate.
And crucially, how to move past it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How we can transform that fear into a catalyst for courage and, genuine growth.
And that's really the heart of the question that jumped out from the material, isn't it?
Yeah.
What if the greatest barrier to your team's effectiveness isn't skill, strategy, or resources, but fear?
That hits home.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because we see brilliant ideas just stall out, crucial conversations, they never even get started, opportunities just slip away.
Right.
And it's often not a lack of vision or even a bad plan, it's these unaddressed fears just silently dictating our choices.
So our goal today is practical.
Absolutely. To give you concrete, repeatable strategies, help you shift maybe from that insecurity into confidence and turn hesitation into actual decisive action.
So let's put the challenge right to you listening in. What if the biggest thing holding you back, limiting your influence, wasn't external at all? What if it's hidden deep inside you or maybe within your team? We want to uncover these forces, these often invisible dynamics.
And show how they can be transformed.
Yes, not just obstacles, but maybe even launch pads for something really impactful.
So where do we start with understanding this?
Well, our sources use this really vivid phrase. They call it the silent siege.
That's a powerful image.
Isn't it? It describes how fear isn't just, a minor wobble, a lapse of nerve. It's actually the most common saboteur of progress.
Right, it's systemic.
Exactly. It's a systemic fortress built from stones of insecurity, anxiety, and distorted imagination, just eroding opportunities, stifling innovation, all without firing a single shot.
And this silent siege, it shows up in so many ways, often quite insidious. We're talking about the deep fear of rejection.
Oh, yeah.
Or the anxiety of being misunderstood, or maybe the most common one, just the fear of getting it wrong.
Perfectionism territory.
Definitely. You see it in perfectionism, that endless cycle of preparing but never acting, or just that nagging insecurity whispering, you're not ready yet.
You don't have enough.
Precisely. And beyond the personal stuff, there are real cultural barriers too. Worrying your message won't land well, or worse, might offend someone unintentionally. What's really striking is how these inner obstacles often feel so much bigger, more insurmountable than external challenges.
Because they shape how we even perceive the external.
Exactly. They quietly dictate whether we show up at all in those crucial moments.
That is so relatable. I think many of us have felt those whispers. So, okay, let's dig into this silent siege idea more. What are the specific internal forces? The materials call them internal giants, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A great place to start is probably the most primal one, the fear of rejection.
That runs deep.
It really does. When we speak truth, especially truth that maybe challenges the status quo or popular opinion, we risk stepping outside that comfort zone of cultural approval.
And rejection stings.
It cuts deep. It stirs that primal longing for acceptance we all have. We see it so powerfully in biblical stories. Think of Jeremiah protesting, I don't know how to speak. I am too young.
Right, when he was called to speak God's message.
Exactly. Or Peter denying Christ under pressure, just trembling under the fear of what others thought. And interestingly, modern psychology totally backs this up.
How so?
Well, research shows the brain processes social rejection in ways incredibly similar to physical pain.
Wow, so it's not just an ancient thing, it's deeply wired.
Absolutely. Foundational.
Okay, so rejection is a big one. What other internal giants did the research highlight?
Another really significant one is insecurity in our ability. This is the voice that convinces us that speaking boldly or acting with conviction, well, that's for the gifted few.
Not for ordinary folks like us.
Right. Think of Moses at the burning bush, his objection, I'm slow of speech and tongue.
Yeah.
It just shows that feeling inadequate isn't some modern invention. It's ancient. It's almost instinctive. It's that feeling that we're simply not equipped for the task ahead.
I think many of us have used a version of that line. And then there's perfectionism. That often looks like a good thing, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Our sources call it a noble lie. This drive to speak flawlessly, get every detail perfect.
Which leads to never speaking at all.
Exactly. It ironically leads to perpetual silence. But the really profound insight here, I think, is that perfectionism isn't just a barrier. It's a misdirection.
Right, I mean.
The narratives we looked at argue pretty powerfully that God intentionally leverages imperfection. He sees our cracks not as flaws to hide, but as conduits for grace. It demonstrates his power most profoundly right through our vulnerability. It completely flips how we usually think about strength and capability.
That's a powerful reframe. Cracks as conduits of grace. I like that. But gosh, it's also hard to shake off the weight of shame and past failure, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Shame, that internal voice saying, I am not enough or I am a failure, it drives us to hide. Much like Adam and Eve hiding in Eden after they messed up.
Yeah.
Past failures can absolutely haunt our present opportunities. They make us hesitant to even try again, fearing we'll just repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah.
It's a really heavy burden to carry.
So often these internal struggles just feel overwhelming. But then there's also the practical challenge of just lack of preparation. How does that fit in? Is that different from perfectionism?
Yeah, it's important to distinguish it. This isn't about that endless, paralyzing striving for flawlessness. It's more a legitimate awareness of our limitations and maybe a call to good stewardship. It's about taking seriously, say, Paul's advice to Timothy to rightly handle the word of truth. It encourages us to actually invest the time to understand, to study, so we can communicate faithfully and wisely.
So it's responsibility, not fear.
Exactly. It's not about hiding what we have out of fear, but cultivating what we've been given with diligence. Responsible humility, not disabling insecurity.
It's clear then, this silent siege isn't just one thing, it's this complex interplay, this dynamic between what's going on inside us and the pressures coming from the outside world. And our sources give that really powerful example you mentioned, the 12 spies in Numbers 13.
Right, such a clear illustration.
They all saw the exact same challenges, the same giants in the land.
Right.
But for 10 of them, their internal fear completely defined how they saw reality. It led to paralysis.
Well, Joshua and Caleb.
Right. Joshua and Caleb, operating from internal faith, saw those same giants as opportunities for God's power to be shown. It really is all about that internal lens, isn't it?
That example just nails the point. And speaking of the outside world, the material also lays out these external factors, things like hostile environments and cultural opposition.
Okay, let's unpack those.
Well, think of Gideon hiding in the wine press from the Midianites. That's a vivid picture of an external threat just forcing silence, forcing hiding.
Yeah.
Or maybe in a more modern context, think about Paul's ministry in Athens. He's there engaging these philosophical elites in a very pluralistic culture where truth itself was openly debated and contested.
Right. High stakes.
Exactly. And that fear of cultural misunderstanding starts whispering, what if I offend someone? What if I'm misinterpreted in this really sensitive environment?
That fear of misinterpretation feels incredibly relevant today. What other external pressures did those sources point to?
Well, there's also the reality of spiritual opposition. The writings remind us, that our struggle isn't just against flesh and blood.
Ephesians 6:1.
Precisely. Examples like Satan tempting Jesus or Paul facing that orchestrated resistance you see in Acts 13, they show there are intelligent, purposeful forces working against truth.
And that unseen nature can be unsettling.
Absolutely. It can make us feel incredibly vulnerable, and it tends to amplify all those internal fears we just talked about.
Okay, so hostile environments, spiritual opposition, anything else?
And then there's that pervasive, sometimes subtle fear of futility.
Ah, the what's the point feeling.
Exactly, that nagging whisper. What difference will my voice really make? It's just a drop in the ocean. The prophet Ezekiel was actually told up front that his audience might not listen.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Yet he was still commanded to speak. That can feel like a heavy weight, but the consistent message across these sources is that proclamation, when it's rooted in a higher command or conviction, it's never actually wasted.
Even if we don't see the results immediately.
Right. Even if the results aren't obvious to us in the moment.
What's really captivating here, though, is this kind of radical reframe the sources offer. They're not saying just ignore fear or power through it.
No, not at all.
They're saying almost use it. They show how God doesn't condemn our hesitation. He acknowledges it and then reveals how he transforms that very fear, equipping us right at that point of hesitation.
It's a fundamental shift, isn't it? From trying to eliminate fear to seeing how it can be worked with.
So how do they suggest we practically do that? How do we use that hesitant energy to propel ourselves forward?
Well, it starts with recognizing God's response to our weakness. Remember Moses struggling with his speech. God's response wasn't fix your speech. It was, I will be with your mouth.
His presence comes first.
Exactly. His presence precedes our performance.
Yeah.
It's not about us perfecting ourselves first. Then think about Pentecost.
Right, the disciples hiding.
Hiding behind locked doors, completely paralyzed by fear, and then transformed into incredible boldness, not by sheer willpower.
No, by the Spirit's infilling.
Exactly. What once paralyzed them now propelled them out into the streets to proclaim. The power wasn't just theirs alone.
So it's about divine partnership.
Very much so. And the material also emphasizes how God shapes ordinary words into power. Paul reminds the Corinthians, my message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with a demonstration of the Spirit's power.
So it's not about eloquence.
It's not dependent on human eloquence, it's dependent on divine authority. And maybe most incredibly, God even turns opposition into opportunity. Paul's imprisonment. It could have silenced him.
But it didn't.
No, it actually advanced the gospel because his chains became a kind of pulpit. Barriers so often become the very platforms where God magnifies his message.
So the takeaway isn't about being fearless. It's more about combining maybe self-awareness with intentional action and recognizing this divine partnership.
That's a great summary.
And our sources don't just diagnose the problem. They actually give us simple, repeatable strategies to move out of that fear-driven silence into courageous action.
Exactly. And one of the key starting points is to reframe fear as faith's companion.
Companion, that sounds counterintuitive.
It does, but think about it. Fear doesn't disqualify us from purposeful action. In fact, it's often a sign that we're right at the threshold of obedience, stepping into something significant.
Okay.
So the invitation is to step forward, knowing that genuine faith often meets us in our trembling, not waiting until after it disappears.
I like that. Step forward in the trembling.
Yeah. And building on that, the materials offer a really practical fear-to-faith action plan. 3 steps. First, identify your specific fears.
Get concrete.
Yes,
Go ahead.
name them honestly. Not just I'm scared of public speaking, but maybe I'm afraid my friend Sarah will see me as judgmental if I share this perspective. Make it real.
Okay, name it. Then what?
Second, interrogate those fears with truth. Counter them with robust principles or scripture. Remind yourself maybe the spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. Actively push back against the fear narrative.
Confront it with a different story.
Exactly. And finally, third, initiate small, manageable steps. Courage is like a muscle. It grows incrementally.
So don't aim for the huge leap right away.
Right. Instead of a grand declaration to Sarah, maybe it's, this week I will pray for Sarah and just ask how she's doing, aiming simply to listen more than speak. Small, deliberate actions build momentum.
Those small steps seem so crucial. It makes it feel less overwhelming. Not about leaping, but just deliberately walking forward. What other practical tools came up?
Role-playing difficult conversations is another really effective one.
Like practicing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a way to kind of desensitize the fear through repetition, but in a safe space. You identify specific scenarios, assign roles, really engage in the conversation, and then importantly, debrief afterwards.
What does that do?
It helps transform fear from this tyrant that dictates avoidance into more of a manageable companion that just signals caution. It's like rehearsal for real-life courage.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
And there's the absolutely indispensable value of peer encouragement and debrief rhythms.
Community support.
Huge. You know, Proverbs 27.17, iron sharpens iron. This means setting up actual rhythms like pre-briefs where you share your intentions with trusted peers before you act.
Okay.
And then debriefs afterwards where you reflect on what happened, celebrate even small victories, and just normalize any awkwardness or unexpected responses. It's fundamentally about not going it alone.
I can absolutely see how that community support would be a game changer, especially when things don't go perfectly, which they often don't.
Right. Having people to process with is key.
What about vulnerability? How does being vulnerable play into building courage? Seems like it might expose you more.
You'd think so, but the sources argue the opposite. They say embrace vulnerability. Sharing our imperfections, our struggles, it isn't actually a liability, it's a relational bridge. Think about Paul being really transparent, saying, I was with you in weakness and in fear and much trembling. Even Jesus wept with mourners.
Showing his humanity.
Exactly. Authenticity and vulnerability show that faith, or conviction, is a journey, not some perfect performance. It fosters trust and openness. It allows people to connect with your humanity.
Okay, that's powerful. Vulnerability as a bridge.
And the material also brings up the armor of God from Ephesians 6, but not as literal battle gear.
Right. More metaphorically.
Yeah, as a powerful framework for spiritual preparedness, specifically for engaging the world. Think of the belt of truth as grounding your convictions, anchoring you. The breastplate of righteousness protects your heart from guilt and shame, letting courage come from security.
Okay.
The shoes of the gospel of peace prepare you to carry your message with sensitivity. It's a framework for building that internal and spiritual resilience needed for the conversations ahead.
That's a really practical way to frame it, resilience and intentional engagement. What about understanding the actual landscape, the culture we're stepping into?
That leads right into another strategy, seeking wisdom from cultural mentors.
People who know the terrain.
Exactly. Like Paul observing the altar to the unknown God on Mars Hill before he spoke. We're encouraged to observe, to listen, before engaging. These mentors, who might not even share our specific beliefs,
Right.
can offer invaluable insights into local norms, sensitivities, how people communicate effectively there. It helps us build bridges without compromising our core message. It's about being thoughtful, not just barging in.
Thoughtful engagement, not reckless. Makes sense.
And finally, underpinning all of this, our courage finds its ultimate anchor in remembering the promise of Christ's presence.
Matthew 28:20.
Yes, that assurance. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. It's not just comforting words. It's presented as a spiritual anchor.
How does that help with fear?
It transforms fear from this paralyzing force into perhaps a signal of our dependence on him, not just our own abilities. It's a profound shift in where we ultimately place our trust and find our strength.
So as we wrap this up, it really feels like the message isn't about somehow eradicating fear, becoming fearless.
No, definitely not.
It's more about this combination of self-awareness, understanding our fears, reframing them through truth, taking those small actionable steps.
Within a supportive community.
Right. And all underpinned by that sense of divine partnership. It creates this rhythm, maybe, of faith in deliberate motion, acting despite the tremble, knowing we're not alone.
Beautifully put.
Mm-hmm.
And as we conclude this deep dive, maybe a question for everyone listening to really consider is this. What is the true cost of staying silent when you feel that nudge, that call to speak or act?
Mm-hmm.
And then flip side, what incredible possibilities, what transformations in you, in others might be waiting if you choose, maybe starting today, to confront that fear with intentional faith?
That's a powerful challenge. Building on that, maybe think about how your willingness or your reluctance to step into those uncomfortable, fear-tinged moments will shape your own impact, yes, but also your personal growth and maybe even the culture right around you. Because true courage, as these sources suggest, isn't really the absence of fear at all. It's the presence of purposeful action, empowered by that deep inner conviction happening right in the midst of the feel itself.